Well, greetings to you. Tomorrow, the Chancellor will stand up and deliver his budget speech in the same sort of city spivvy way that Chancellors always do, explaining why he's stealing your money, but not explaining fully how he's squandering it. And now it's interesting, is it not? If you go back to the Middle Ages, the king, with force of arms and his big castle, would come and steal citizens' money at a whim to fight wars or to build palaces, or to build art collections in the late Middle Ages, so on and so forth. Yes, okay, but he was an honest thief. He was an honest thief. He said, I'm stealing your money because I've got an army and I've got swordsmen and I've got bowmen and I've got everything like that. And I'm stealing your money because I'm a greedy twat. What we have to put up with these days, we have to put up is a chancellor who's pretending he's taxing us pro bono publico. He's taxing us for our own benefit. This is utterly ludicrous, isn't it? Madness. We now have the highest tax bill in 50 years. We've had 13 years of the Conservative Party, who always get into power, flying the flag of low taxation, low regulation. And he will tell you a whole pack of lies of why the economy and the country, broadly speaking, is going to ratchet. Okay, now he'll come out with all sorts of stuff. He will blame COVID. He won't blame the government response to COVID. He'll blame COVID like it's force majeure. Nothing he could do about it. He'll blame energy prices on Putin. Not 13 odd years of green policies with windmills and solar panels and all the nonsense which has driven us into this terrible hole of expensive energy. He will blame everybody but himself. He'll blame inflation on some sort of amazing tsunami, not on his own quantitative easing, printing money, which degrades it. And I've got into that before. He will say, oh, yes, I know, but we've got to tax you heavily because we do such wonderful things. We give you wonderful pensions. We give you a health service. We give you roads. We give you an education system. But Ewan, if you're watching this clip, you know the health service is crap. The roads are crap. Everything's crap. And we have the worst state pensions in Western Europe. So you're being taxed and taxed and taxed, but you're not getting anything out of it. What are you getting for all this taxation? And so while he stands there blaming everybody but himself and his own colleagues, he'll be explaining why he has to put his hand into your pocket even further. He will do a hat tip, a nod to cutting government spending, but if you look at it, he really won't. Government spending hasn't been cut really now for 2 generations. He needs to get a grip of public spending. That's the answer, not to raise tax. He'll be labouring under the illusion if you raise the rates of tax proportionally, you raise the revenue you get. That's totally and utterly absurd, and I've had to listen to this nonsense nearly all my life. If you raise corporate taxes to 25%, or personal taxes to 25 or 30%, all that happens is people stop paying it. They bugger off. They go somewhere else. And if companies will say, no, I'm not going to pay 25% to this idiot government, I'm going to build my factory in China or India or somewhere else. That's what actually happens. So it doesn't raise any revenue. If you want to actually, ironically, paradoxically raise revenue, you cut taxes because more people are prepared to spend it, pay it. They'll pay the tax if it's not too bad. They go, I'll pay the tax. I won't run in circles trying to avoid it because it's a reasonable tax. So we're going to get all these things. He will blame everybody but his own government. It'll be Putin's fault, COVID's fault, everybody's fault but his own and his own government. And of course, the elephant in the room is that he's not presenting the budget in the same way that he ought to as a public limited company should. If it was Great Britain UK PLC, he would have to adhere to international accounting standards, which he doesn't do. What's the elephant in the room? Public sector indexing pensions. So if you actually add that to make it legal, because if he presented it the way he's going to present it tomorrow morning, I can assure you that he'd go to prison if he was in the commercial sector. He will not mention the cost of public sector. It's off balance sheet. It's off balance sheet, and it's nearly $750 billion. And if you actually do your debt to GDP ratio, which I don't like actually, but that's the way everybody wants to do it, your debt to GDP ratio actually then pushes us in to the same level of Greece. We are around about the same level as Greece. around about the same level that we were when we came out of the war in 1946. These incompetent buffoons with their quantitative easing, money printing and cheating and false accounting will ruin the country. They will ruin the country. And so really the only public thing, the only great thing a government should do, the one thing a government should do is protect our borders, and it's the one thing that they're not doing. So there's £7 or £8 million a day going in illegal immigration in 4-star hotels, and I'm not going down that route because I've been down it before. This buffoon squanders money, and so do the buffoons that went before him. Until we get a grip of public finance, this is going to get worse and worse. And who's going to pick up the tab? You are going to pick up the tab. These people don't feel the draft with their index-linked pensions and their salaries and their bit on the side that they all have in politics these days. I'm afraid it's just getting worse, and there's no opposition. Who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to vote for? Starmer? More of the same. Labour, Conservative. It's blue rosette, red rosette. Nobody's addressing this problem. And until they do, things are going to get worse. Sorry about that message. You listen to carefully what he says tomorrow morning. Cheat. Spiv. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based. And I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.